Second solar system. Third planet, Namibia. This is the history of Namibia and its people.
The age of Ibonadai had begun with Ibonadis Gregor the Conqueror, the first of his name. He took Namibia with more might than their entire world could muster. In a single day, he took the government from the descendants of those wannabe mob bosses, then swiftly turned his attention to the various tribes scattered across the world. He crushed their charismatic leaders and accepted the surrender of those who saw and learned. Within 5 years, Ibonadis had re-established order throughout Namibia, moving the planet forward as leaders in the raw materials galactic market. Namibia made a couple historical firsts within the Hadean Galaxy. They became the first planet to experience a coup d'etat, the first to be conquered by outside forces, the first to undergo such rapidly changing governmental structures, and the first to have a de facto dictator, for which they would certainly not be the last. For over 100 years there was relative peace, lasting until genetic abnormalities flared. They had noticed a steady rise in the cases of albinism over a number of years on the dark side of the planet. This portion of the population had lost their photochromic response to the sun, making the light side of the planet inaccessible to them. The extreme cold and high winds of the dark side had also caused their noses to narrow and straighten. As this extreme atmosphere kept most people inside with close relatives or in solitude, the average person had long stretches of time for self-reflecting. This produced a more thoughtful, family-oriented, laid-back culture. Although being tight-knit, they were cold and downright hostile toward outsiders. And after a few generations, there were no more dark-skinned Namibians left, only those pale, silver-haired reflections. The differences between those on the dark and light sides of the planet were bad enough, but the people of the dark also felt overlooked politically when Ibonadis II took the throne. They were not wrong. Due to their distance from the capital, they were out of sight, out of mind. Despite being aware of their history, Ibonadis II had not witnessed it firsthand as his father did. He had not laid eyes on hospital wards overflowing with crying mothers, bemoaning their white, blue-eyed newborns. The people believed it was a sickness gripping the land, but to Ibonadis II and many others, these pale people were pitiful mutations spawned by weak genetics. Thus, they became second-class citizens known as Palatiddes. The Palatiddes were merely tolerated due to the critical role they played in the mining industry. Certain minerals and metal alloys could only form in sub-zero temperatures under immense pressure. Hence, these materials were found in deep seams beneath the earth, and only on Namibia's dark side. Mining in these conditions was dangerous at the best of times, but add to that a general disregard for the lives of those on the dark side, and high rates of work-related deaths were inevitable. Even if somehow they avoided accidental death, a more sinister death was lurking in the shadows. The miners received less than 2% of the already weak sunlight, reflected by the planet's moon throughout the day. Trapped in these dark spaces with death and injury an ever-present threat and the barely concealed disdain of their fellow man across the border, the mental decline of these workers took its toll. Rates of insanity were already higher in the Palatide population due to a condition akin to seasonal affective disorder. Medical professionals recommended the consumption of supplements, use of UVB artificial sunlight lamps in the cave systems, and other lifestyle and dietary measures to combat the issue. Unfortunately, these suggestions were only implemented on a personal basis as it was expensive to mass-produce these specialized lights, and the harsh environment made the importation of the necessary supplements and foods a costly endeavor. Since workers received no health benefits and site overseers did not have the means to implement use of the UVB lamps, workplace and work-related death rates continued to climb. Of course, no one with any power to improve the situation would lift a finger over it despite numerous simple solutions that could be implemented. Ibonadis II didn't care about the loss of life, only his constant shipments of rare minerals. This eventually led the Palatiddes to take action and declare their independence from the light side. The resulting response was war. The full might of the Ibonatide army came bearing down on the poorly armed Palatide separatists. But despite the Ibonatide's superior firepower and perceived advantage, their forces were anything but prepared to fight in sub-zero temperatures and near-zero visibility, conditions the Palatiddes were accustomed to. Born into the dark, Their vision in the low moonlight was naturally superior than those constantly inundated by two suns. Add to the mix, their own night vision technology was more advanced, as the Palatiddes never had much need of it. But the main problem was that the Palatiddes' heavy artillery were designed to function in blistering heat and desert conditions. Now, faced with snow and ice, they ran into catastrophic failure. Fuel lines ruptured, joints froze and cracked as metal contracted in the cold. Before the battle had even begun, the Imperial army had been reduced by 2/3. Those that remained were like lost children among the snowy embankments that rose hundreds of meters high at some points. The Palatiddes' pale complexion and smaller bodies allowed them to move undetected to assault the enemy from all sides. After the tremendous victory, the Palatiddes seized the opportunity to take over, but were held at bay by Namibia's double suns, which drove them back into the dark like creatures of the night. The scorching heat forced them into hiding. Even a drop of sunlight burned their fragile skin and blinded them almost completely. Both sides were now at an impasse. The Palatiddes were unable to claim the throne, while the Palatide forces were still heavily depleted. The opposing sides begrudgingly hammered out an uneasy deal to allow the rare minerals to keep flowing. They understood they needed each other, as the light side housed the starport, which was the main hub for commerce with the wider galaxy. Without this major infrastructure, it would be impossible for the dark side to do any meaningful trade. The new arrangement saw the Palatiddes selling their rare minerals to the Palatiddes, who further sold it on the galactic market. While this deal was in place, they still exercised the right to wage war against one another. Thus, an unusual relationship emerged on this planet, where both factions fought as bitter enemies and traded goods as comrades. Most of their battles took place over border countries. These regions were located in the narrow strip of twilight that separated their world, where it was never quite morning and never quite night. Namibia has remained locked in this strange stalemate since. Their war is unending, and every successive Palatiddes promises to stamp out the pale menace.
This has been a Gem Mine publishing production. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Your support means the world to us. If you'd like to go the extra mile in supporting our work, consider checking out our books available on our website or on Amazon. Your purchase directly contributes to the creation of more content. Thank you for being a part of the Gem Mine publishing community. We can't wait to bring you more captivating content in the future.